Every footballer has a flaw that could end them. Not a bad touch, not a weak foot, something deeper. 7 sins that have killed careers, collapsed clubs, and stolen trophies from the greatest players who ever lived. Today, we expose all of them. First sin, envy. The most toxic thing in any dressing room isn't a bad tackle. It's a player who can't bring himself to celebrate his teammate. Zlatan once said, Messi was from another planet. What he didn't say was that sharing a planet with him was something he couldn't handle, and it showed during his time at Barcelona. Ibrahimović arrived at Barca as one of the best strikers on the planet, but within 1 season, he was gone. His own autobiography makes it plain. I was a striker. Guardiola didn't give a damn about that. He changed the tactical formation. He swapped the 4-3-3 for a 4-5-1, with me at the front and Messi right behind me, and I ended up in the shadows. The balls passed through Messi, and I didn't get to play my game. On the pitch, I've got to be as free as a bird. I'm the guy who wants to make a difference at every level. Guardiola sacrificed me, that's the truth. Messi was the star. He couldn't stand playing second fiddle to Messi. Not because Messi disrespected him, but because the entire club's identity revolved around one man, and Ibrahimovic's ego couldn't survive being in someone else's orbit. A man of his talent, gone in a year, because envy of another man's greatness made it impossible to contribute to it. Second sin, greed. Some players choose money over football, and the game never forgave them. At Arsenal, Alexis Sánchez was arguably the most complete attacker in the Premier League. Relentless pressing, goals, assists, carrying an entire squad on his back almost single-handedly. Fans worshipped him. Managers built systems around him. He looked like a man who genuinely loved football more than anything. Then, the contract negotiations started. Arsenal offered him what was at the time a record-breaking wage for the club. Then in January 2018, he went to Manchester United on reported wages of £350,000 to £500,000 a week, figures that made headlines globally. That number is the whole story. Not because Animal is wrong, but because from the moment our contract was signed, something in Alexis visibly died. The greed wasn't just in the wage demand, it was in the timing. He chose the richest offer over the right offer. City wanted him, a club actively competing for titles, with the system that would have suited him perfectly.
Pep was very keen to have him join, but it didn't happen, I think, not for the wrong reasons or for any regrets. There are reasons why that deal ultimately didn't fall through, and it was out of our hands. We did everything we can.
He chose United's money instead. That decision, more than anything, reveals what had moved to the front of his priorities. When money becomes a metric, everything else, form, hunger, identity, quietly rearranges itself around that number. Alexis Sánchez just didn't take the money. He took the money and forgot to bring himself with him. In 3.5 years at United, he scored 5 league goals. The same player who has scored 24 in a single Premier League season at Arsenal. He looked disinterested in training. His body language in matches was that of someone waiting for something. Nobody could work out what. He was loaned to Inter, had a brief resurgence, then quietly faded out. What greed does to a footballer is it moves the goalposts. You stop measuring yourself in trophies and start measuring yourself in contract zeros. And once that switch flips, you're done. Because comfort is the enemy of hunger. The saddest cases aren't the players who cashed in after winning. Nowadays, it's the ones who jump ship at 25 for a golf payday and whose eyes went dim. Their body kept playing, their soul had already retired. Third sin, sloth. The most terrifying thing in football isn't injury. It's a 10 out of 10 talent with a 3 out of 10 work rate. In the 2010-11 championship season, Adel Taarabt was practically untouchable. QPR built the entire promotion campaign around him. He scored 19 goals, created countless more, and was so dominant that he won the Championship Player of the Year award by a distance. Watching him that season, you would genuinely believe you're watching a future Ballon d'Or contender. The talent was that obvious, that rare. The problem with Taarabt was never ability. Every manager who worked with him said the same thing. On his day, when he felt like it, he was the best player at the club, full stop. That phrase, when he felt like it, is the entire tragedy. Harry Redknapp, who managed him at QPR, was brutally honest about it publicly.
No, he's not fit. He's not fit to play football, unfortunately. He played in a reserve game the other day, and I could have run about more than he did. So, no, I can't pick him. I'll pick people that want to try and deserve to be at a good football club like QPR and want to work and come in every day and want to work and train and show a good attitude. And that's what I got today from the players. When he starts doing that, whether he ever can do it, maybe he'll get a game.
What makes Taarabt the definitive Sloth story isn't one bad season or one bad club. It's the consistency of the pattern across his entire career. QPR, Spurs, Fulham, Milan, Benfica. At every single stop, the same reports followed him like a shadow. Flashes of genius, chronic inconsistency, fitness concerns, attitude in training. He was never a bad professional in the loud sense, just a quiet, persistent refusal to do the unglamorous work that separates a talented footballer from a great one. Adel Taarabt didn't lose his talent, he just never respected it enough to find out how far it could take him in his career. And the career that should have filled a trophy cabinet filled a Wikipedia page of loan moves instead. Fourth scene, rot. One moment of fury. 10 men, a tournament gone. July 9th, 2006. World Cup final, extra time. One of the greatest players of his generation. His last professional game ever. A trophy within reach. He chose rage. What nobody fully discusses about the Zidane moment is that Materazzi knew. He wasn't randomly trash-talking, he was exploiting a weapon Zidane had never been able to put away, his wrath, which cost an entire nation a World Cup trophy as France went on to lose the game to Italy. Most wrath stories in football are simple. Player loses temper, red card, suspension, move on. Roy Keane's wrath is different because it wasn't random, it wasn't reactive, it was calculated, premeditated, and delivered with full awareness of the consequences. To understand this, we need to go back to 1997. Manchester United versus Leeds. Roy Keane goes on with a cruciate ligament injury, one of the most painful, career-threatening injuries in football. As he's lying in the pitch, Erling Haaland, the Leeds midfielder, stands over him and accuses him of faking it, in front of the crowd, while Keane is on the ground. For most players, that's a bad memory. An irritant, something you shake off. For Roy Keane, it became a 4-year obsession. April 2001, Manchester City versus Manchester United. Haaland is now at City. Keane gets the ball, goes in on Haaland and doesn't go for the ball. He goes for the knee deliberately. It wasn't a mistimed tackle. The FA initially fined him £5,000 and handed him a 3-match ban. Keane later wrote in his autobiography, "I wanted to hurt him. I stand over him and go, take that you can't. I don't regret that." The FA later reopened the case after the autobiography was published and extended the punishment further to a £150,000 fine and a 5-match ban. Haaland claimed this tackle forced him to retire from professional football. The Haaland tackle is the most extreme example, but Keane's wrath ran through his entire career like a live wire. He famously walked out of the 2002 World Cup with Ireland after a public explosion at manager Mick McCarthy, destroying his country's best chance at a tournament run in the process. Teammates who loved him described him walking on eggshells. Ferguson, one man who could manage his intensity, eventually had to let him go too. The final falling out reportedly involving Keane criticizing teammates in an internal club interview that was never meant to go public. Every single time, the same pattern. The wrath served him brilliantly in controlled doses. It made him ferocious, driven, unbeatable in midfield. But it had no off switch, and eventually it turned on everything around him, including himself. Roy Keane's wrath made him one of the greatest midfielders of his generation. It also made sure nobody could be around him long enough to fully enjoy it. Fifth sin, gluttony. The modern game is eating itself alive, and calling it ambition. Some top clubs played 61, 62, 63 games last season. Add international duty, and some elite players barely slept in their own bed for 10 consecutive months. That's not football schedule. That's the consumption of human beings. Then there's the transfer market glutton. Clubs who sign 14 players in a summer and play 8 of them. No rhythm, no continuity. Just the buzz of the next arrival. The clubs that win repeatedly, not once, not by accident. They master subtraction. They recruit less and use more. They build identity through repetition, not constant rotation. Gluttony isn't always about excess. Sometimes it just looks like neglect. The academy player nobody bothered to educate about nutrition. The body that should have lasted 15 years burning out in 8 or less. Sixth sin, pride. Pride doesn't just cost points, it costs careers, and sometimes it costs entire clubs. Every great manager learns one brutal lesson. The game is bigger than your ego. Some learn it in time, some never do.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit arrogant. We have a top manager. Again, please don't call me arrogant because what I'm saying is true. I'm European champion, so I'm not one of the bottle. I think I'm a special one.
Mourinho's first act at Chelsea was genius. 3 league titles, a system that revolutionized defensive football. His final act was a war of attrition with his own players, an inability to adapt, a pride that had hardened into armor he couldn't take off. By the end at Spurs, players weren't just losing faith in the tactics, they were losing respect for the manager. He then went on to manage Roma, where although he won the Conference League in its inaugural season, he was sacked the following season. He managed at Fenerbahce in Turkey a few years later and was sacked for failing to qualify for the Champions League. Another example is the legendary story of the striker who couldn't adapt to pressing football because pressing means running, and running means admitting you're not above the work. His pride in being a pure footballer made him a liability in the modern game. Pride doesn't feel like arrogance from the inside, it feels like standards. It feels like refusing to lower yourself. But in a team sport, the refusal to be humble is a refusal to be useful. Seventh sin, lust. Some players want the fame more than they want to win. You can always tell which ones. We're in the era of the footballer as a brand. And for some, the most talented, the ones whose faces are worth millions in endorsements, the love of football has quietly been replaced by the love of being a footballer. Lust for fame, for attention, for relevance beyond the pitch. There is nothing wrong with the platform used well. Rashford using his to fight child hunger is extraordinary.
People have opinions, whether or not they understand fully what the families are going through is another conversation, but because of that it's easy for me to sort of dismiss a lot of the people that are making them opinions, because I know for sure that a lot of them speaking the way that they're speaking is so insensitive about the issue, and they've definitely not been through it themselves. So for me, it's I'll take that all day long, as long as we start to see improvements going forward for the people that are in need of it now. Is what's important to me, so I don't mind the criticism.
But there's a version of this sin that hollows a career out from the inside. The players who hires a social media manager before hiring a nutritionist. The one whose Wikipedia page lists more brand deals than trophies. The game smells it. Teammates smell it. Managers feel it in training. And football, which is utterly merciless, eventually punishes it. The players still talked about 20 years after they retire were obsessed with football. Not famous for it, obsessed with it. The game was what they lasted after. That is a lust the sport rewards. 7 sins, 7 ways to lose everything the game offers you. Now, which sin do you think has killed the most promising career you've seen? Drop a name in the comments, let me know. And if you want more football breakdowns that actually go deep, not just highlights, not just statistics, subscribe.